You think people changed recently? You're right. And it's not just your perception getting darker. Something fundamentally shifted in how humans interact. And most won't admit it because admitting it means confessing they're part of the problem. Let me show you what happened. Everyone became a brand, not metaphorically. Literally. Your coworker who posts gym selfies isn't working out anymore. They're performing fitness. Your friend sharing their mental health journey isn't healing. They're monetizing vulnerability. Researchers call this identity entrepreneurship, and it's rewiring human connection at the neural level. When every interaction becomes content, authenticity dies. Not because people are fake, because the line between real and performed dissolved completely. Here's the part that'll mess with you. You can't tell who's genuine anymore, because they can't tell either. Studies on self-perception show that performing a trait for an audience makes you believe it's authentic. Your brain can distinguish between who you are and who you pretend to be when you do it consistently. So that friend who's always fine, they might actually believe it now. That person who posts inspirational quotes while their life crumbles, they've convinced themselves they're thriving. The performance became the personality, and nobody knows who they were before the audience showed up. Second shift, conflict disappeared. Not because people became kinder, because everyone's terrified of being wrong publicly. You noticed how arguments vanish now, how everyone suddenly agrees or goes silent. That's not peace. That's social paralysis. Research on digital communication shows people would rather abandon their beliefs than defend them where it's recorded. Your opinions became liabilities. Every conversation is a potential screenshot. Every disagreement is career suicide. So people stopped having positions. They have vibes. Now ambiguous enough to escape accountability, vague enough to avoid consequences. The weirdest part, everyone's lonely despite being more connected. Because connection requires risk, and risk requires showing something real. But real is dangerous when everyone's performing, so you get millions of interactions with zero intimacy. You know what people eat, where they travel, what they believe, but you don't know them, because they don't show you the ugly parts anymore. Not because they're private, because ugly doesn't get engagement. Third thing you noticed, but couldn't name, everyone's exhausting now. Not because they're dramatic, because they're on all the time. You can't have a casual conversation anymore without it feeling like a podcast recording. People don't talk. They deliver content. They don't listen. They wait for their turn to perform. Psychologists call this perpetual self-monitoring, and it's why every coffee catch-up feels like work. You're not connecting with humans anymore. You're watching live auditions for an invisible audience. Here's your permission. You're allowed to find this exhausting. You're allowed to miss when people were just people. You're allowed to withdraw from the performance economy. You don't owe anyone a curated version of yourself. You don't need to turn your pain into content. You don't need to optimize your personality for virality. The people who changed aren't coming back. They don't remember who they were before, but you can remember who you are. You can choose not to perform. You can have boring conversations. You can be inconsistent. You can be wrong where people can see it. That's the only rebellion left. Being actual instead of optimal. Messy instead of marketable. Unknown instead of viral. If this resonated, you know what that means. You're still human underneath the performance. Subscribe if you want. More dark truths nobody admits. I'll see you in the next one. If you're still yourself by then.